Have you ever wondered what the path to becoming a full-time musician actually looks like? Like, not just this abstract idea that people talk about all the time. I'm talking about what are the real world applications of this idea of, okay, I'm going to become a full-time musician. What does that path look like? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the two paths that I think every single musician is going to have to pick between, because here's the reality of the situation. No one is going to go from where you're at right now watching this video to full-time musician if you're not already a full-time musician. If you are not a full-time musician, odds are you have a job or you have a side hustle, right? You have some other way of getting income that's outside of music. And today, I'm going to be going down these two paths to show you what is right for you. Every single person is going to have a different answer to this question as to which path they're going to go down. So let's talk about the first path. The first path is the traditional 9-to-5 job. Okay, so why do musicians need a 9-to-5 job? Two things. One, they need steady income, right? Because music is such a volatile industry, it's going up and down all the time, it's very important that artists develop recurring revenue, money that's coming in every single month. And a job is a great way to do that because every 2 weeks, you're getting paid. And so that money is coming in on a regular basis. And that can give you a floor of income to live off of so that you can start to take your outside time and devote it towards your music business. Now, there's another requirement that the jobs that you're going to go out there and look for as a musician need to have. So yes, they have to have decent pay so that you can live on that income potentially alone, and then you can add more income with your music. Here's what you need to be looking for: scheduling flexibility. Now, you may say, Dax, okay, I need a job with decent pay and schedule flexibility, but what are those type of jobs? So let's go through at least 4 of my favorite examples as to jobs that are really good fits with artists and musicians based on our lifestyle. So the first one, hopefully is a little bit obvious and you potentially thought about, is working at a music store. This was one of my favorite 9-to-5s when I had a 9-to-5. This was one of my favorites because I actually got to be around music all the time. I could be around a guitar, which I'm a guitar player. I could always be around music, and it was a great environment. I learned a lot. I was a music teacher, so I worked at the Guitar Center lesson studio for a few years, and the type of people that I met and was able to surround myself with absolutely took my music theory knowledge to the next level. Like, I already thought I was good. I got to a whole nother level just by being around such smart people, right? So to me, a music store can be a great place to do this because if you're going to get a job anywhere, it might as well be involved with music and something that you're probably already interested in. 2, they have schedule flexibility because they're all musicians. Everyone's got to take off for gigs. Everyone's got to take off for tours every now and then. And people understand that. If you have to go into the studio for 3 days, that's not a huge ask. Whereas if you have like a typical warehouse job and you go up and you say, hey, I'm in a band, or I'm an artist and I need to take time off to go to a gig, or I need to take time to go to the studio, most jobs are going to laugh at you. And like, they don't mean it in a crazy disrespectful way. They just don't think you're serious because no one they know takes music seriously potentially. So that's what happens a lot of times. You go to your normal 9-to-5 and you go, hey, can I get off Friday because I have a gig on Friday and I have to be there, way before, and all this kind of good stuff. They'll probably be like, what? What do you mean? And some people will just be like, no. In fact, I know a guy he lives around here. He was going to go out on tour with this band that's relatively well known around here, but he couldn't go on tour with them because his boss said no. That was the only reason. So they had to go find one of my friends, actually it was my singer's friend, to be their bass player, right? Because the job said to the bass player, nah, you can't go. And there's nothing the band could do about it. There's no recourse, right? So there are cons to having 9-to-5s, but one of the pros are if you pick the right place, somewhere like a music store, you can work with people that won't disrespect what you do because they completely understand, right? So that's why I always suggest going to a music store for your first job application. Now, that doesn't have to be Guitar Center. It could be Guitar Center. It could be Sweetwater, Sam Ash, if it's still around. I don't know if that's even around anymore. But local mom and pop music shops, those are great places to get a job, get some consistent income coming in, and you can still be around music. This next one I'm going to suggest, some of you are going to go, but let me explain. The second job that actually fits pretty well for a musician is a Starbucks barista. Now I know some people are just like, what? What? Here's what I'm going to say. At least based in where I live, which is in Oklahoma, I've seen Starbucks with minimum pays from $12 to $15 an hour. So that's not a terrible base pay. And one of the things that I found out from people that work in Starbucks is that they're actually pretty flexible with their scheduling. So this is another business that you can get involved with that isn't very, stringent on their scheduling abilities, and it's got a decent amount of pay at the floor of it, right? Like a Guitar Center, you could probably make anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour, depending on what you do. At Starbucks barista, you can make anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour. It's not terrible base pay, especially if you're rooming up with people and things like that. So that's one level. Starbucks baristas can be another avenue. Now, I know that will be easier of a job to get for certain people, right? Like based on their experience, maybe they have experience working at other coffee shops, and so it'll just be easier for them to get the job. I don't know, right? So Starbucks baristas are an availability, because I know for a long time I had bandmates that worked in warehouses, and warehouses are physically taxing on your body, right? Starbucks barista job, working at Guitar Center, it's not going to be as physically demanding on your body. Now, the next job that works out pretty well for a lot of artists and musicians is becoming a bartender. Little bonus tip is becoming a bartender at a venue. Little extra get in the music business type thing. So like if you can find ways to be as involved with the music business as you can with your 9-to-5 job, try to do that, right? And so in a bartender's case, if you can become a bartender at a popular venue, you will be more likely to network and meet people that would be valuable relationships to have in your music business, right? You're actually around people. Not only that, becoming a bartender, you learn how to multitask. You learn how to okay, I'm taking this order and I'm making this drink, and I'm taking someone's order while I'm making another drink. You have to be kind of multitask oriented, and it'll really sharpen you so that when you go to a merch table and someone's like, can I get a large t-shirt of option B? So you're like, large t-shirt option B, what would you want? And as you're looking for that, someone's like, I want an option A and a size small. And you need to be able to have that recall and to take people's orders, multiple orders sometimes very quickly, and still keep everything to go. Okay, let me take your card, run it through this, type it up, run your card, type it up, and you're just running through it. Bartending is a great place to get those kind of skills so that when you're behind a merch table, you're like a well-oiled machine and you know where everything's at, and it's just like being behind the bar where you know where all your cups and all your mixers and garnishes are at. Very, very similar skill set transfer over when you go behind a merch table. And you develop sort of one-to-one sales skills as well. So when people walk by or they're at the table, you can engage with them and then not just be like, what's up? Did you like the show? And they can't hear you. So you have to be, did you like the show? Everyone's had that very painful, awkward interaction at some point in their time as a band or an artist where they sit at the merch table and they go, hello. They're really shining like, what? Hello. Oh, I'm cringing so hard just thinking about my own experiences. I'm sure you are too. I'll stop now. So bartending can be a great job to get, though. You do have to, I believe you have to get some sort of bartending license, or you have to go to school for it. But it's not too hard to attain, and once you become you go into venues and different places that offer live music and try to start there. Maybe you don't want to go work at just the hip nightclub that doesn't really have anything related to your music scene. Try to keep it as much involved, but if that's the only job you got, you'll still get good skill sets from it. So if you can't find one that's music related, it's okay. Take the bartending job that you can, get those skills so that when you get behind the merch table, you're like, ooh, I see the transfer. I see how this transfers over. Now, finally, retail sales. Now, sales is kind of a tricky thing for a lot of businesses because some businesses do no base salary, but they offer no limits on commission. Others will put a limit on commission, but give you a base salary. Now, businesses typically want to give you a base salary if you're good. If you're not good, they'll definitely want you just to work commissions only. But if you're good at what you do, they'll want to give you a salary because they know that you'll make more money based on your commission checks. So if you're a very personable person, right, you're very good with chatting with people and you just got the gift of gab and all that kind of good stuff, sales can be a great place for you to go. For instance, my father, he dropped he didn't drop out of college. He actually like went through college, pursued his degree, found out he didn't like it, and then went and got another one. So he was in college for a long time. And now he's not a doctor. And he comes out of it, and ultimately, you know where he ends up? He ends up as a furniture salesman. And then he works at furniture sales very hard. He learns the products, he learns how to sell, he learns how to talk with people, and he starts making enough money that he goes, Dax, I remember at one point I had friends who were doctors and lawyers, and I was looking at them and I was making more money than them. Because sales is one of those things where if you have the skill set, your earning potential is huge. Right now, scheduling wise, it may be a little bit more stringent in sales roles, but I think ultimately if you can learn the skills of sales, that will benefit you in your music career in many different ways. So in the 9-to-5 path, typically what that looks like is you take one of these 9-to-5 jobs that has flexible scheduling but a decent pay, right? And what you have to figure out is, in my time that I'm not working, how can I optimize my remaining day, my remaining time to work on my music business and grow that, okay? So that path can kind of be a long path. And the reason I say that is jobs don't typically have very high growth potential. For example, if I'm a music teacher at Guitar Center, my growth potential is 100% dependent on how many clients I have. So I have to sacrifice more time to get more money, right? It's hard to scale something like that. So there's sort of a cap where I only have so many hours and they only have so many hours available as a store, and me personally, that my schedule at one point sort of got maxed out. And new leads we had to start giving to other instructors because my schedule was too full and I wanted to grow my income, but I couldn't. I was sort of capped, right? So 9-to-5s do have that drawback, where side hustles, on the other hand, have a whole different characteristic altogether. And so, to be totally frank, this is the path I went down, and I felt like it was quicker. I felt like it was faster to go down this route, but there's a specific way to do it so that you don't end up replacing one. Like I hear people go, I'm glad I quit my 9-to-5 to go work for myself 24/7. There's a lot of truth in that if we don't do this correctly. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the second path now to obtaining full-time musicianship status, which, by the way, I didn't even really kind of finish the other one. Let me do that real quick. With 9-to-5, the goal is over time you grow your music business enough that you can go part-time with your 9-to-5 job because you've grown the music business enough to supplement that income. And then eventually you grow it to a point where you don't need the job altogether, and then you can just be a full-time musician. It's a very long road, but that is sort of what the path looks like, okay? What does the side hustle path look like? Well, let me give you a little bit of a synopsis here. When you're looking to create a side hustle, you have to be cognizant of two very important things. You want to create a side hustle that doesn't have a lot of setup, okay? There are side hustles you can do where you go start like a hot dog cart. You got to go buy a hot dog cart altogether. You have to buy all the hot dogs. You have to buy all the toppings. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of initial investment to get things going. Not saying it's a bad side hustle, because I know some people who have done that actually, and they were making not terrible money from what they told me, but like the idea is there's a lot of setup in that, right? Whereas if we can pick a side hustle that doesn't have a lot of setup, I can get started quicker, and that plays to my advantage because it decreased my costs and I'm effective with my time, because speed is a big thing in business. Now, the second thing is you want to create a side hustle that has a predictable monthly income. In fact, if you can make it service-based or subscription-based so that they're paying for it every month, that makes things a lot better. Now, let me kind of go into the first example of side hustles that fit this criteria. The first one is be a private music teacher. If I'm being totally honest with you, this was my first side hustle that I did that got me to quit my 9-to-5 the fastest. So for example, I was working at Guitar Center, and to get the monthly income I was at, I had to have I think it was 34 clients. So every single week I was meeting with 34 different people for their weekly lessons. And that got me to a certain level of income where I could pay for all my bills and I was taken care of, And then I was like, do I really want to be at this job for like another 10, 20 years, working for, sometimes I'll have lessons leads or whoever come in that are not a great fit with me personally, and I don't like working for them. Am I really going to do this for 10 years? And so I decided, well, wait a minute. Why can't I know what the people pay for this, because they were paying at the time, prices have obviously gone up since then, but they were paying like $115 for 30-minute lessons and like $218 for hour-long lessons. So that's weekly lessons every single weekly lessons for an entire month. That's the monthly fee. And so I was like, man, if people are paying that, I could go start my own practice where I don't even have to charge that much. And I could, if I'm the business owner, instead of Guitar Center, I actually make more money with less clients. Well, that became attractive to me. So what did I do? I figured out, how many clients do I need at this price point to pay for everything my job has been paying for? You know how many clients I needed? I needed 9. I needed 9 clients to pay me the same income that 34 clients were giving me at my 9-to-5 job. I want you to think about that for a second. How much time needs to be invested to service 34 clients who are minimum 30 minutes to an hour versus 9 clients in that same domain? So I knew what the goal was, and I was like, okay, while I'm still working at my 9-to-5 job, I'm going to figure out how to dedicate some even more time. I'm going to be more efficient with my time and just dedicate a portion of it to building this private music practice. Well, in my first it was actually more like 3 weeks of prospecting, I was able to get 11 clients. So that more than covered what I was making at my 9-to-5 music store job. And so I was able to go put in my 2-week notice, and I was able to live off that. And then my practice grew, obviously, and stuff from over time, and so that it became easier and easier to do things. And then here's the kicker as to why I love side hustles. Because my time commitment went from like 40 hours a week, a little under 40 hours a week, to 7 hours a week. I was working 1/5 the time I was working at my 9-to-5 job, but I was making the same money. If I told you right now, listen, I can't give you a pay increase. I'm a magic genie. I can't give you a pay increase, but I can make you work less hours and you make the same amount of money. Would that be exciting to you? You'd probably be like, heck yeah, I want that right now. That to me is the power of a side hustle. And remember, there's some things that we need to understand. It's little setup. I already knew how to play guitar. I already knew how to teach guitar. I had been doing it. I'd been playing guitar for like 20 years. I've been teaching it for like 8. I know how to do those things. So it's easy setup. What do I need? I need a website to sell it, and I need Zoom. Woo! Crazy setup. Not really, right? So that was easy for me to set up. It has monthly recurring revenue. Very easy to okay, I can guarantee that every single month this amount of money is coming in, whether I make a new sale or not. Where other side hustles that are based on one-time sales, that's tricky, because now you're constantly in the I need to sell right now or else I don't eat mindset, where we don't want to be like that. So music teacher is one of the first obvious ones to go to. Okay, what is the second side hustle that I recommend? Well, this one, if you guys are more artistically adept, right, or inept, I think that's the right word. If you guys are more proficient at art and stuff, graphic design could be great. Becoming a freelancer. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are like, well, Dax, getting clients is hard. I'm like, hold on, let's change our frame about this. As a graphic designer, you're an artist, right? You're a musician and an artist, technically. I want you to think about this. What is a client base that you know of that desperately needs designs all the time? It's artists. Artists need designs all the time, whether it's for t-shirts, merchandise items, album covers, laminates, tour posters. People need designs all the time now. So if you have the skill set to actually fulfill that for other artists, getting clients should be very easy. Hit up your inner circle of artists that you know first, where it's like, hey, I was just curious if you had a graphic designer that you worked with for your releases, and if you were looking to find someone who could do that for you, right? There's going to be so many artists you talk to that do their own graphic design, and it's so mediocre, it's obvious, right? Because they're not graphic designers, they're musicians. They just want to get something out there so they can put the music out there. Well, this is one of the big things. If you can provide that, you have a full, plentiful client base of people that need designs all the time. And if you want, you can charge a monthly fee to be on basically beck and call for these artists. And depending on how much time you want to invest in this, you have to make your price versus time commitment make sense. So let's say because of graphic design, there's a little bit more time that you need to fulfill the product, right? So what you can do is charge more on a monthly basis so that you'll have less clients, but you'll have good quality clients that are paying you every month. And so when you're working on retainer, let's say you're working on retainer for 5 people willing to pay you $500 a month, or that's a big amount, right? Because for a big artist. But let's say you have even something smaller than that, where you have someone who puts you on retainer for $200 a month. And you basically say, in that month, I'll give you unlimited X design. I'll give you 1 or 2 t-shirt designs. If you can set limits for them. Like, listen, in this month, if you want me just to focus on t-shirts, I can max give you 3 different t-shirt designs in a month. Right? You have to figure out what's good for your time and how quickly you can fulfill that, right? But you figure out how much time does it take me to fulfill, how many clients would I need at my price point to make it to where I'm not committing the same amount of time as my 9-to-5 job to get less or the same income. I'm getting more income or the same working less hours. So that's a big balancing act that you got to really play with there, okay? Now, the next side hustle that is very low labor, very chill, and if you can get enough clients, if you know where to target, you can get paid relatively well, which is being a sitter. A sitter, that could be babysitter, that could be pet sitting, that could even be house sitting. And the order that you can look at it is, on the cheaper side, you have pet sitting, right? But if you have babysitting, that is going to be worth a lot more, right? Because I love dogs, I'm a dog person, but the value of a human life is a lot more extreme, especially when it's your kid, right? So obviously you're willing to pay someone more to protect that. And you may be thinking house sitting. Who needs their house sat while they're gone? Answer that question. Who does? Affluent people, rich people. They're the ones who need house sitters, by and large, or even upper middle class or middle class. And those people can afford to pay you relatively well. And if you're house sitting, house sitting does not necessarily mean you need to sit in this house 24 hours a day for the duration they're gone. House sitting could very easily be, I check on the house 2 or 3 times a day, right? So you have to figure out, based on where you live, who's most readily available and needs this service, who you could go to, where it's like, do you know a lot of people? Like, do you know a lot of parents with kids who don't get out, and they talk about how they never get to get out because they have kids? That's a great prospect for, hey, I can babysit whenever you guys want to go out. Maybe you guys want to go out once a week and have dinner together. That's very healthy for relationships. Oh, my wife is calling me. All right, I'm back. So you have to figure out who needs that service around you if that's the route you're going to go. Now, if you want to look at targeting more affluent customers, I think that's a valuable strategy, and it's why I even bring this one up, is because it gets you to start thinking about, if I was going to target affluent buyers, where would I start targeting my services? Where would I put ads at? Where would I put flyers at? Who would I network with? Who would I talk to try and get prospects that are affluent enough and need this service, whether that's pet sitting, babysitting, or house sitting. So being a sitter of some kind, heck, I know babysitters personally that can make, like $300 a week from one client. So imagine if you had 2 clients paying you $600 a week. You do 6 times 4, that's 24. So that's $2,400 a month from 2 babysitting clients, watching them like 3 days a week from 8 to 5 or something, right? And that's a real base pay there, where you could make a lot of money. You're working what? That would be around 20 to 30 hours a week, roughly. So if you're working 40 hours a week, that's a nice cut. You're working less time and you're making, hopefully, more money. Now, the last one is very easy to set up. And like I said, like if you have, like what we've talked about before, if you're a musician, becoming a music teacher, that's easy setup. You can do it instantly. If you're a graphic designer, you have the ability to create the art. Boom, you have the skill. The only thing you need to be able to really set up your business is start asking people. Maybe have some examples to send them, but that's it. Then as a sitter, you just need your body and a phone. Very easy to set up that business, right? And maybe Google Calendar. Ooh, that's free. The last one, vehicle-related side hustles. So every single person, hopefully not every single person. I know it's not every single person. Some of y'all ride bikes. Some of y'all do public transportation. I understand. But hopefully, by and large, a lot of y'all have a vehicle and it's insured. If you have those 2 check marks, or you have those 2 boxes checked off, you can do vehicle-related side hustles. So that could be Uber, Lyft, that could be Uber Eats or DoorDash, that could be Shipped if you want to deliver groceries or something like that. There's many different services that are available now. And some people even double up on services. So they pick like 1 or 2 days a week where they're just going to be going out and just making deliveries all day. That's to me, that's a very prudent thing to do. Determine what days of the week that you could take off from your job, or if you don't have a job, you could just establish the days that you're going to work on. Maybe that's Monday through Friday, maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I don't know. You will be the determiner of your schedule, right? But you can pick the days, flexibility in scheduling, right? And you can say, I'm going to work during these days. And if you have to go on tour or play a show, you don't have to call in. You just go do the show because you're the boss. Just like when I have music, like when I started my private practice, if I had to go on tour, I just texted them, hey y'all, I'm going to be going on tour for the next month. We'll make up your lessons when I come back. That way, my monthly income doesn't stop because I go on tour. They get charged while I'm on tour, knowing full well they're going to get all those lessons that they missed caught up when I get home. So it's very valuable to be your own boss because the schedule is at your whim, basically. And as a vehicle-related side hustle, like I said, if you got the vehicle and it's insured, boom, you can now sign up for Lyft and you can sign up for Uber and you can start doing transportation around the airport. If you live in a big metropolitan area, it's going to be a lot easier for you to do those kind of gigs. I know if you live in a little bit more rural areas like Oklahoma, it's going to be a little bit tougher to have a steady gig when it comes to Uber, but if you stay in the downtown areas, you stay by the airport, you're going to run across a lot more people who are needing rides, especially at certain times. If there's been concerts, you can be the person that picks up people from concerts. Have some rules, make sure people don't get super wasted and throw up in your car. That's just a little bonus tip. I've met a lot of Uber drivers in my time. So now let's take a look at these things. For example, we have these 2 paths in front of us. I got to finish the side hustle path. So what does that path look like? Well, what it looks like is, okay, I either don't have a job or I do have a job, and I got to figure out how to dedicate my time that I have available now to building this side hustle. There may be a period, there may be a season where you're not working on your music business as much, but that's okay, because that time period that you didn't work it as much, you're going to get a lot more time in plentiful amounts to work on your music business, even though at first you weren't able to. So what does that look like? At first, it's like I got my job, let's just say. And then I go from it being like 50% job, 50% music, to like 33% job, 33% side hustle, 33% music, right? It's divided by 3. Then you build the side hustle enough to the point where you don't need the 9 to 5 anymore, like I did. And then you get from a position of, okay, now I'm back to 50-50. Now I'm back to 50% of my time is on the side hustle and the rest of my time is on the music business. But here's the cool thing. With me, because I was able to cut my time input in basically down to a fifth of what it was, I was now able to dedicate more than it being 50-50. I was able to say like 20% of my time is dedicated to my side hustle and 80% of my time is dedicated to my music business. Because fulfillment was very easy. It took me 7 hours every week to fulfill it. Music business stuff, I could work on whatever I wanted, and I could work on a lot of other things. And so to me, that path, there's two paths, and I'm not trying to say that having the 9 to 5 path is wrong. I have mentors that stayed with their 9 to 5 until their business was like not just making the same amount of money, but like double or more what the job was bringing in. So that can be a good motivator too. So that may be the path. If you're taking the 9 to 5 route, that might be what you need to do, is get to a point where not only is your music making the same as your job, but the music is making double your job, if that's the route you choose to go. If you're over here in the side hustle camp, what's cool is like there isn't really an income cap. For me, I had to decide there was a cap on my private lessons because I was like, I can't take on this many clients. So like if I take on 30 clients again, that's going to be like, I'm going to be, and yes, I'll be making exponentially more money, but my time commitment is still going to be stringent. I'm not going to be able to dedicate as much time now to my music business because of that. So very important thing to look into is what path are you going to take? For my personality traits and my temperament, it was the best decision for me to get out of the 9 to 5, grind and start getting into the side hustle side of things. So that way I could like have freedom to make my own schedule, get paid the same, if not more in the early stages. And that's really where it began, so that I could free up my time to work on my music business. And once that started growing, I had enough time to build up this channel and those kind of things, right? So it's all about how do you dedicate your time. And the reason I'm such a big proponent of the side hustle method and that path is because, for example, if I say time is, you probably thought time is money. Well, what if I told you that's wrong? What if time is actually more valuable than money? And I would rather have my time than to have money. What do you mean? Well, most billionaires who are 80 years old would give away every single penny of their wealth if it meant they could be 20 again, right? So you would rather have more time than more money. Here's the thing. We can always print more money. You can't print more time. Time is just time, and you have the amount of time that you've got, right? So time is infinitely more valuable than money. So to me, a side hustle, though it is riskier than a job is the more secure, like the income is like definite. As soon as I sign up, I go to work, the paychecks start coming in. Side hustles are a little bit more volatile, just like the music business, but I feel like that's kind of a good thing. It kind of trains you to deal with uncertainty, because that's something you're going to have to deal with anyways, being a music entrepreneur. We talked about that in one of my videos where we talked about the different emotions and struggles that a professional musician goes through. That's one of them, is dealing with the anxiety of how uncertain something can be. Building a side hustle involves some of those same emotions, but you build it up and you get to the point where you can quit your job. You'll have developed such valuable skills that when you apply that now to your music business, you're going to be way ahead of other musicians, because you've actually taken the time to learn a valuable set of skills. And if you're interested, if you go to my website, there's a quiz that you can take that tells you kind of what path is a good fit for you. There's actually 4 different quadrants. I only talked about 2 of them today, which is the hobbyist and the hustler. Or actually, it's more the entrepreneur and the hustler. But either way, there's a quiz that you can take that tells you your artist archetype. That's available in the description, or it's available at our website, musiciansignite.com. It's totally free. You just put in your email address and then take the quiz and get your results. Really, really cool stuff. So thank you guys for watching this video today. I hopefully gave you a lot of value and you learned a lot of stuff from it. And now you understand what the path to becoming a full-time musician actually looks like in principle, right? Taking what is our job and either maximizing our job, but finding a job that has flexibility and consistent pay, right? Or the path of I'm going to create my own wealth, I'm going to go to the side hustle route, and though it's a little bit more risky, if I understand how to actually build an effective side hustle, I can minimize my risk and I can create a side hustle that doesn't have a lot of setup, but I still get monthly income. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell, all that kind of good YouTube-y stuff. Leave a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. And I will see you guys on another video inside of Musicians Ignite.